Dr. Bono, welcome to Russia again, and it looks like you've been coming here from time to time for 30 years already.
Probably is. Probably true.
That's great. So you keep connected to what's going on. So in this time, you are here to give a keynote at the Educators Fest. So, and you are also known as the person who is really socially involved in helping communities to generate ideas. And what is your perception how thinking and community are connected?
Well, I think that we have done virtually nothing about practical thinking for 2,400 years, since the Greek Gang of Three, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle. And in particular, we have done very little about creative thinking or thinking to generate value. So really, human thinking is not very wonderful. We can do a lot of analysis, we're pretty good at science, we're pretty good at finding the truth, but not very good at creating value, solving problems, solving disputes, and so on.
And do you think these open meetings of professionals and say of teachers, will it be useful for them to become better thinkers?
Well, yes, I think the whole point about being a better thinker is to be more constructive and to design the way forward. Our traditional thinking, because of the church, was obsessed with the truth. So we had argument where each side claims to have the truth and show that the other side does not have the truth. And it's very negative, there's no design involved, it's full of ego and so on. So, for example, this 6 hats method of parallel thinking is much more constructive, much quicker. JP Morgan showed it reduced their meetings times to 1/10. And there's a couple of examples where, in a strike situation in Canada, the workers asked to use the 6 hats and solve the dispute very, very quickly. So our traditional thinking is very poor at ways of being constructive in meetings.
And if we talk about education and teachers, how do thinking and learning how to think better can help teachers themselves in professional way in communicating with kids?
Well, obviously, if you become more confident of your thinking, then you can apply it to any situation, including teaching and such. So it's not directly about teaching, it's about thinking, and thinking applied to teaching, and so on, and understanding youngsters and making it easy for the youngsters to understand you.
So you are saying that thinking is very important as a personal
Thinking is by far the most important human skill, as simple as that. The most important human skill.
So it means to become a better human.
Yes, it's much more important than language, talking, reading, writing. It's much more basic. It's how you make your decisions, how you make your plans, how you deal with other people. All that needs thinking. It's not enough just to say, I'm right, and therefore that's all I need to do.
And if teacher comes with with teaching thinking to kids, what he or she can bring to the kid? What does it give to children?
Well, it gives children, first of all, the idea that thinking is important, then confidence in their own thinking, and then some tools that they can use in thinking. The tools are important because it's not much use saying, I'm a very good thinker, and so what do? You just end up analyzing everything, which is useful but not enough.
So thinking methods you designed were in use in 70s, I think, in schools in many countries.
1969, the beginning,
69. So what are the major outcome? What are the major value they generate for education?
Well, the different people have reported a lot of different things. Dennis Inwood in England showed that teaching thinking, my thinking, as a separate subject improved performance in every subject by between 30 and 100%. Then David Lane, who ran the Hungerford Guidance Centre for youngsters too violent to be taught in ordinary schools, he found that teaching thinking, he did a 20-year follow-up, the youngsters taught thinking, the rate of criminal conviction dropped by 90%, dropped to 1/10 of what it had been before. Then, with unemployed youngsters on the government New Deal program, teaching thinking for just 15 minutes increased the rate of employment by 500%, stronger than anything they'd ever done. And a year later, 90% was still in employment.
So we have a lot of social value and also personal. We have a lot of social value created.
Yes, social value, reduce crime, increase employment, so on. Yes.
And if we make connections between teaching thinking and teaching traditional subjects, I can imagine, and I know a lot of teachers who say, how can I use thinking methods in my, say, mathematics class or in my history class? Is it possible to develop?
Well, the answer is yes, but what I am strongly against is where teachers say, well, when I'm teaching maths, when I'm teaching science, I'm asking the children to think, isn't that enough? The answer is no, it's absolutely not enough. Thinking has to be a deliberate process which you are in control of. It's not enough to say, any subject I'm tackling, I'm thinking, therefore I'm getting better thinking. All you're doing is an analysis, usually.
Okay, and if a teacher decides to use the Bono thinking
Yes.
history class, is it possible? Is it?
Yes. Yeah. Well, there are specific tools which youngsters can use. I mean, using one creative lateral thinking tool in one workshop for a steel company produced 21,000 new ideas in one afternoon. That's a lot of ideas.
Oh, yes. And what would be your advice to educator who comes to, say, official or some decision maker and asks to support introduction thinking program in his or her school or community? What would be an argument to say, please help us to organize that?
Well, first of all, the idea is do a trial run and then ask the children what they think, and they get very enthusiastic. They find it very helpful.
So we are saying to official what?
We're saying, well, let's try it out. Let's
try
give
it
the
out.
children some thinking lessons.
If they enjoy it.
Then let's see what they think of it, whether they enjoy it, whether they find it useful, these things.
Okay, just let's try it out and see how kids react and if teachers
Yeah.
like. I'm asking because I know a lot of cases when teacher wants to work with thinking methods, but he or she encounters resistance or lack of support or sort of vacuum of interest.
The problem is that in general we don't have any good idea of what thinking is. We believe it means old philosophy type things or sort of logic and argument and really very boring stuff. So that's the problem, that we don't have any concept that it's simple, practical, dealing with operations. Because our traditions of thinking are, because of the church, all about finding the truth. Well, that is useful, yes, but there are practical thinkings like how to do things, how to solve problems, how to make things happen, how to deal with other people. All these are not under the classic view of thinking. So most people really have very little idea of what thinking is about.
And first we need to educate teachers and then...
Yes, there's a huge ignorance gap.
And what would be for you an ideal situation, say ideal school or ideal education system where thinking is taught in 21st century? So how can you, if we creatively imagine that education became oriented towards thinking?
I think first of all, to get teachers who are teaching it and have seen the effects and results, to get them to talk, perhaps even each to contribute to a book or something on their experience,
collective experience,
their experience, so that other people can listen to them and say, okay, now these are people who've been doing it. It's not just the author doing it, but I think that'd be very practical to get them to share their experience, their results, and so on. Yes.
Okay, and thinking can be a specific subject of the curriculum, or it should be the whole school about thinking?
It should be a very definite subject on the curriculum, very definite. In other words, it's not enough to say, well, we're doing geography and we do some thinking, we're doing history, we do some thinking. That's not enough. It's got to be very deliberate. This class is about thinking. It's got to be a deliberate skill. And because of that, youngsters get confident in their thinking, they get proud of their thinking, they enjoy their thinking. That makes a big difference.
And could you give any particular examples from Australia, England, America, China, where it's happening and it's happening like ideal way? Teaching thinking's like separate subject.
Well, I'd say the University of Beijing, for 9 years of doing research in my work in schools, I don't know the specifics of their results, but they're very positive.
So we have like a lot of data collected.
Well, it depends, maybe data, maybe reports from teachers, that sort of thing. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's it.
Okay.
So what would be your sort of message, or what would be your message to Russian teachers and educators?
Well, first of all, that thinking is the most important human skill. It's important in reducing crime, in getting people to work, in getting people to get on with each other in a social sense. All these things depend and are affected by good thinking. That's the first. That is important. Secondly, that it's very different from classical philosophy, which is very full of analysis, and that's all. It's practical, it's operational, youngsters enjoy it, they even take it home and use it in their families. So it's practical, it's doable, and it's important. Those are the three things: practical, doable, and important.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.